Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Home with the Halsteads. And again, welcome to my kitchen. It's going to be fun today. I'm going to be making a fresh apple cake. We had guests over the weekend from Atlanta. Our children, Carol and James, and their family came, and they brought special friends, Paul and Gay Earls. And Gay always brings me something. And she had been up in North Georgia, north of Atlanta, to the apple orchards, and had gotten some new crop apples, and she brought me some ginger gold apples, and they're similar to McIntosh, and McIntosh are good cooking apples as well as Granny Smith, and sometimes I just use Red Delicious apples to make my fresh apple cake. But today I'm going to be using the apples that Gay brought me, and they are ginger gold apples. So it would not be Thanksgiving at our house if we didn't have a fresh apple cake. So I want to share with you my recipe and show you how I make it. The first thing that I have done is to combine my dry ingredients. I'm using 3 cups of plain all-purpose flour, and to that I added a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking soda. And I've already sifted and measured and mixed my rising ingredients in with that, and I re-sifted. So I have my flour and my dry ingredients ready. I'm also using 2 cups of sugar. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the sugar in my mixer. To that, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of cooking oil, and I'm just using pure vegetable oil today. So I'm going to pour that in with the sugar. I'm going to go ahead and start my mixer so that the sugar and the oil can start blending and mixing together. To that, I'm going to add 3 eggs. These eggs are at room temperature. It's real important that you have your eggs at room temperature. So we'll add 1. Two, and 3. And we'll just let this mix around for just a minute. It doesn't take long. Once you get your ingredients all together and you know that you have everything that you're going to need to make this cake, then you just put it together. Put it in your mixer and let it go. Next, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And let that mix a little bit. I'm going to stop it for just a minute, lift it up, and stir it around the bottom. Sometimes it'll clump in the bottom of your mixer, and you don't want any sugar to be left down there so that it comes out and gets on the top of your cake. You want it to all be blended well. Okay, we'll start that back up. Now we're going to add our dry ingredients. This is 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of salt. See how quick this is? I've been making this cake for probably 50 years. It's so delicious. And after you kind of have your meal, you can just sit around at night, maybe outside on the patio. You've got a fire going and maybe have a cup of good decaf coffee or a glass of milk. Wouldn't that be good? Okay, we're just going to mix that around. Blending everything together. And while that's mixing, I'm going to tell you that I have 3 degrees of tube pan, and that's what I'm going to be pouring our cake in. And again, mine lifts out. This is antique, it's old, but that's what I'm going to be baking our cake in. Now, it's time to add our apples. Now I have 3 cups of diced apples. And again today I'm using the ginger gold apples, but you could use McIntosh, you could use Red Delicious, you could use Granny Smith. So I'm just going to pour the apples in the cake. And we want to get them all in there. Don't want to leave any. And mix that around. This batter is going to be thick, so don't worry about it if it is, because it needs to be, it should be. Okay, and then last but not least, we're adding 3/4 of a cup of chopped pecans. And friends, here's our apple cake batter. I'm going to pour it in this tube pan, and I'm going to put it in the oven on 350. I'm going to bake it for an hour and a half. I will check it sooner to make sure that it's not done, because my oven tends to cook quickly. And I'm going out for a walk while this cake cooks. And then I'll come back and I'll show it to you once I get back from my walk, and once the cake is done, I'll show it to you, and we'll put a wonderful little glaze on top of it that'll just set it off. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back from my walk and back in my kitchen, got my apron on, and I put together our glaze. I used a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar, 1/2 stick of margarine, and 2 tablespoons of milk. And I happen to have some 1/2 and 1/2, and that's what I used in the place of the milk. You can use either. I just put it in this little skillet. I'm gonna bring it, I've melted it together, stirring it around. I'm gonna bring it to a little boil while our cake finishes up, and then I'm going to poke some holes in the top of the cake and drizzle it, and then I'll put some more on it, and I'll show you how I do that in just a minute. But I'm just going to cook this so you can see that it's beginning to boil, and now I'm going to cook it for 3 minutes, and it'll be ready to put on our cake. I have our cake out of the oven, and I'm just going to take this little cake tester that I have here. Carol gave me that for Christmas, and I'm just going to punch some holes in the top of our apple cake. Just like that, so that all of this good drizzle can drizzle down in there, and it'll be so moist and so good. Okay, then I'm going to take our glaze that I've made while the cake was finishing up, and I'm just going to drizzle it over the cake, over the top of the cake. Once the cake gets cool enough to remove from the pan, I'm going to put some more drizzle on the sides because we have plenty to do that, and it's just going to make it that much more delicious. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to save the rest of it, and when it gets cool, I'm going to take the cake out of the pan and put some around the sides. That's it for today, friends. I hope that you'll try a fresh apple cake and that it turns out really well for you. And I'm going to get me a cup of coffee and sit down and rest. I walked this morning 2 miles and I've made this cake, and so I'm ready to sit down and rest a minute. I thank you again for always watching Home with the Halsteads. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking our page. Thank you for liking our videos. And I'll see you again really soon.